All right. Thaumaturgy's Tenebrous Oblations is the debut full-length album from, it's a solo group out of Kansas, of all places. And this is a blackened death metal record, and what I would consider an atmospheric death metal record rather than a straight death doom metal record. There aren't a lot of huge and directly readable doom metal riffs in here, but there are progressions that provide a certain feeling that will find a lot of people describing it as doom, because it effectively does have the sort of dread note hitting at any given interval. Um, it would be fair to consider this a sort of cavern core influenced record, although it doesn't necessarily sound like an incantation record. For me, it hits somewhere between the sort of heavier side. Let's see, how can I put this? It's not quite Crypts. It's not quite Wrath Prayer. It doesn't have as much personality and nuance as either one, but it hits a certain atmospheric note that will be acceptable for people who are fans of those things. So there is sort of some bestial death metal detailing in some of the more aggressive parts, and there are some weightier death metal riffs strung throughout these pieces written for 2 to 3 guitars. Now, uh, there are limitations to that, and the only reason I don't necessarily um, write it along up in those similar echelons is because it comes with programmed drums that aren't particularly, I mean, they're serviceable and they're fine and they get the idea across, but for me and nowadays it for me programmed drums are meant for demos, and I know that I've released albums with programmed drums and I get it, but for a record like this, it really disintegrates the atmospheric intent of the record and distracts at times, um, in a way that I didn't feel like their demo tape did, or their EP, Charnel Gnosis. Um, so in that way, this is a more atmospheric recording, which reveals a lot of the programmed drum ticks, and I found myself unable to really get into the moment with this one, but I appreciated the threads of the riffs and the rhythm guitar sections, because it really does come down to being a rhythm guitar album, and one that plays out in an interesting enough way. I think he's got a really good understanding of the guitar and the hills and valleys of a dynamic tonal experience. You really get the feeling of that. There's a couple of great songs on here too, like No Cosmic Womb and a couple of others, which I think might not be big heavy metal moments, but they're definitely cool songs for someone who listens to a lot of black death metal. Where it didn't get me was just memorable pieces that were more than just a bunch of cool riffs. And at this point, maybe I need more of that, more than that. But I know a lot of listeners would just like to sit down and enjoy some riffs. So that's kind of what this record is, and I can still recommend it. This time it's a moderate recommendation, and definitely worth checking out. I mean, I love that album art, and I'm looking forward to what they do next. I think this is it's a proper debut, which realizes the sort of idea of what the earlier releases had in mind. But yeah, I would like to see a little bit more from just the composition, some more interest, something to catch my ear within the drone of it all. So maybe it'll be more your thing. So check it out and read the review if you'd like.